And I'm not crazy, I'm just a little unwell, I know. Right now you can't tell, but soon enough you're gonna look at me and how I used to be me. Talking to myself in public, dodging glances on the... Okay. Hey, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co. and today we're going to do a Should You Back It on Elden Ring. Elden Ring the board game, 9,479 backers, at least as of right now at the time of this filming. We'll have 10,000 before the campaign is over, and I do want you to have all that information before the campaign does end. $2.7 million, a drastic miscall from the 8.7 I thought this thing was going to do. Granted, 8.7 was a very, very specific number that was for the sake of specificity, but I really thought this campaign would do a lot better. I mean, they had 40,000 people following it, that 1/10 of those people converted, that 1/4, one quarter of those people converted, 71 hours to go. Granted, we'll probably cross the 3 million mark. At the end of the day, this thing will likely cross 3 million by the time the campaign's done. We'll hit those final 2 hours, notifications will go out, people will go ahead and see it. By the way, that's actually a relevant point. People will see those textured bases that they suddenly added. Where are they? Announcing textured bases that make these miniatures look significantly better. I mean, the way this looks versus, let's see if we can pull it up over here. No, new tab. Let's go ahead and go back to the update. I want to show you both side by side because I think it is impactful. But we have these textured bases that they added over here. People may or may not see them, but I don't know what opportunities they have to manipulate what people see in terms of that 48-hour notice. But seeing textured bases will definitely be a lot, because if the alternative is you look down, this page is long. I'm going to shamelessly plug GameFound and say that this is a way too long of a page and needs a menu sidebar to actually be able to navigate and see all this stuff, because look at me just scrolling rapidly, trying not to give you a stroke as I go through this. Then again, I can also slow down the way I talk so that doesn't give you a stroke that way. Although right now, with the page rapidly flowing past me, I feel that upping the speed would be more relevant. But we have over here Godric the Graphic. Look at this base over here and compare that to this base over here. Like, just look at the difference over there. If it does look like that, that would be absolutely incredible. A significant improvement. We're getting sidetracked over here, but we're getting sidetracked for good reason, so that all those 48-hour backers, anyone watching this video, knows that textured bases have been added, improving the quality of the game for free to you. Free is relative. You're paying for the game. You're just getting better stuff along with the game you're paying for. But with that said, this is Elden Ring the board game. Timestamps to the various sections down below in case you want to jump around. But again, 10,000 backers, $3 million raised. This is doing tremendously well, but not nearly as well as I thought it would. This is Elden Ring the board game from Steamforged Games. This is going to take you along an Elden Ring journey in which you're going to be alternating between explorations where you wander around an evolving map. You're going to be laying out tiles, exploring the map, trying to accomplish your mission objectives, sometimes ending that with a boss fight, sometimes not, but the boss fights or the fights in general, the fighting in general is going to have these encounter books that are going to give you these stances as you dive into an encounter book, trying to face off against the enemy, whether it's a lone enemy on its own, whether it's a set of enemies, or whether it's one of the bosses you'll have to deal with, trying to figure out how to take them down by manipulating which stance you go in at any single point, which stance you jump into, and how it's going to help you out as far as being more defensive, more aggressive, or more manipulative as far as the initiative order and when you'll activate in the row. There's a combat puzzle in play, a combat puzzle that is broken up with the exploration. Explore around, gather a token, try to accomplish your quest, jump to the next moment in the combat where you're going to go ahead and start fighting the various enemies, eventually make your way to a boss fight, take them all down, try to outpace them. It gives you a solid gameplay loop of just exploration and combat, and boss fight all looped in together. That's the general idea of what's going on in Elden Ring. You're going to be leveling up your characters, your tarnished, you're going to be leveling them up as you play through the game, building out their decks, building out the cards they have, the specific stat cards and how they impact with the various gear you have. So you're going to be leveling up your characters in a variety of ways, including different skills that will slowly unlock as far as, hand size or what they can do, or different versions of things that the abilities they have on the table. Characters will come to the table with their own unique skill as well as their own unique equipment, which will give them ways that they interact or deal with the game state. The core idea of it is an exploration and or fighting and or boss battler all mixed into one game that gives you these, I believe the base core game is going to have 15 episodes if I'm not mistaken, 15 scenarios, adventures, whatever you want to call it, not all of which will end in a boss fight, but all of which will have combat, and many of which will have boss fights as you go through this experience. We have a variety of pledge levels to dive into over here. There's a ton of content. Like I said already, scrolling through this page is a lot of stuff to go through. And so let's just start off the bat. Let's start from the very top and start making our way through things. We have 1 to 4 players, 14 plus. I've played this game as a 2-player experience. You can check out my first impressions on this if you want to see my opinion. Short version of my opinion is it is overall very positive, with the caveat that I've only played it for 2 hours. I do need a significantly more than 2 hours into my belt to be able to give a full proper review on this one. What I will say is I am currently very positive towards it, feeling like the exploration is a nice, simple, but not that rewarding gameplay, but it's broken up and followed up with boss fights and general fights in general that are going to give you enjoyable, rewarding combat that you have to think through and puzzle your way through. To me, that's the highlight of the experience, and I'm looking forward to continue to dive into that, along with leveling up and building out my own character to see how the character development occurs and how more attached I am to a character as I build out who they are. So overall, very positive, but positive with 2 hours under my belt, and I definitely need more time. Speaking of 2 hours, you're looking at 120 minutes per session. That lines up with the 2 hours I just said. There's filmed gameplays. There's a gameplay over on Brothers Murph channel of our exploration phase. You can check that out. And there's a gameplay of the boss fight in my channel. You can check that out as well as a variety of other content from other content creators. You can check out all of that. Past that, as far as the game itself, like I said already, you can have the exploration phase, you'll have these tiles over here, you're trying to wander around, pick up tokens, be mindful of those little red walls, you can't go past those unless of course you land in certain locations that will let you spring past them. You're going to be exploring that open world map, building out the landscape as you go, occasionally dabbling in fights, occasionally being able to jump into other fights with your allies. You'll have opportunities to enter a fight with them to enable to help them out. Boss fights, you're always together. But in the general world around you, sometimes you're facing an enemy that's a little bit too much work, and you'll have the opportunity to join your allies, although you'll do so at the cost of whatever you're trying to do, so you have to be mindful of that. The combat system is going to involve you having a hand of action cards. You're always taking 3 actions every single turn. You're going to be taking 3 actions to either explore, pick up, engage with the world around you, or if you're in combat, you'll be taking actions to draw cards, to move around the board, to play those cards, and you're going to be trying to manage your hand as far as the attacks, the defense, and then utilizing those to react or to be aggressive, to deal with the combat in front of you, playing cards, and then drawing cards from your other symbol deck to see how you trigger your certain symbols in your hands. You always know you have an attack, but how effective that attack will be will vary depending on how and what you play. There's going to be a lot of Kickstarter exclusive content in this campaign. We'll come through all of that, but again, I'm just going through this in order right now. But one of the things that's going to be here is the Iron Fist Alexander. That's going to be a free gift for all core and all-in backers, free only during the live campaign, which means if you are on the fence right now, and you are back again $1, hoping to be able to jump in on the Pledge Manager later, you can do so, but understand that the Iron Fist Alexander will at that point be $15 instead of being free. Factor that into your decision. I'm not trying to push you to get this. There are many things. Skip to the should you back it if you just want the general opinion of everything. It's mostly stuff I've said before, not a lot of new surprises, but if you want just an opinion and conclusion, just jump straight to the timestamp for should you back it. But as of right now, just take into account that the Iron Fist Alexander will be $15 in the Pledge Manager, and right now it's free. Additionally, there's going to be Kickstarter exclusive expansions. Some of the expansions you can get the all-in, or alternatively if you get them separately. Some of those expansions are going to be Kickstarter exclusive, which might give you the incentive to say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and back it, but maybe I'll back the base game plus these 2 expansions, because those are the ones that are going to cost me a pretty penny to get my hands on, and that's absolutely true. And so if your mindfulness is around trying to get certain types of content but not wanting to go overboard, the base game plus the Kickstarter exclusive expansions is certainly a safe way to do so, while while making it likely that you still have access to everything else down the road. That's another thing to take into account. And additionally, the Kickstarter exclusive discounts. Pledge now, save up to $216 in retail prices, plus get $100 of exclusive unlocks. I'm a little skeptical on that value, although it's a little arbitrary to say because it's not like these things are going to be available for sale, so they can kind of assign whatever number they want over there. Past that, starting off with the pledge levels. Pledge levels are going to start at $89 for the core pledge over here. That's going to be your entry point into the game, giving you a dialed back experience. This is not even considered to be the core pledge. This is considered to be the entry pledge. This will give you the dialed back experience. It'll give you a boss fight. It'll give you encounters. It'll give you the exploration. It is going to give you a taste of what Elden Ring has to offer, which is not necessarily a bad thing, especially if you're considering this for future Kickstarters down the road. They have said that this is something that will have subsequent Kickstarters over time, and so you can expect, a year and a half from now, 2 years from now, a year from now, I don't know the timeline. Steamforged games in general, their past campaigns, they've been better and better at turning around fast delivery. Bardsong turned around faster than expected, making it one of the only campaigns, I think it was faster, I'm pretty sure it was, but making it one of the only campaigns out there nowadays, when everything's getting further delayed, for Bardsong to turn around that quickly is an incredible accomplishment, and Steamforged Games have in general very much become a solid company that just manages to get you what they need. They had missteps with the original Dark Souls, but over time they have become more and more consistent, more and more reliable, and have managed to turn things around fairly reliably and fairly quickly, and they are a company that I absolutely do trust as far as giving you what they say you're giving you. Whether the game quality, that's a whole different conversation, we'll get to that as well. But going back to this over here, so whether it's a year from now, 18 months from now, whatever it is, if you want the entry pledge in order to see if Elden Ring is a game for you, Well, here you have it. This is going to be a cheapest entryway into the game, giving you the opportunity to try it yourself, past, of course, your friend Bob, who's back in the game. That's your cheapest entry point into the game. But there, it's going to go ahead through a bunch of the things, the various tarnished you have, the various bosses you have, the various, miniatures you're facing off against. I'm not heavily going to linger on any single thing over here, because if I did that for every pledge, this would be a longer video than I intended to be. From there, we have the core pledge. Again, entry versus core. Core pledge is the core idea of what you have over here. $179 for the game. This is going to be giving you, again, save 86 on MSRP, so that looks like a 250 MSRP, $260 MSRP, I'm not entirely sure, 255, I can't do the math right now, I should do the math, 170 plus 80 is 250, then 15, $265, and $265 MSRP is what they're saying this is over here, plus get an additional $100 worth of exclusive unlocks. Again, I'll question the $100, with the caveat that we'll never know, but past that over there, and also factor in shipping, by the way, factor in shipping or any other costs when you go ahead and get this pledge over here, because you do want to make sure that, sure, you're saving $179, but how much are you actually saving once you pay shipping and all of that, and is something ever really MSRP? They usually are not, so those savings are good, they're not necessarily great. This is going to give you the Realm of the Grafted King, 40 hours replayable campaign, and it is, I would say, based on playing it, that it is likely falls in the, to me at least, it falls in the category of replayable. There's not really a choose your own adventure, the story is not learned, the map evolves as you go, which means every time you build it, you're doing your own thing. I would argue for myself that this is the kind of game system that I am less likely to replay. It is replayable, absolutely. I think I am less likely to replay it. I think I will go through the games, encounter the various bosses, deal with the scenarios. I'll be lucky if I get through the full 40 hours, let alone the expansions. I don't see myself replaying this one. I think that it's absolutely replayable if you want to. I think there's enough content that you're more likely to go through it and then move on to the next thing. The next thing might be Elden Ring, which is available on Kickstarter again a year from now. We have 1,200 cards, 72 hex tiles, 200 tokens, a bunch of ring-bound quest books and tarnished dashboards and the rulebook, plus all the daily unlocks. Again, we'll get back to that shortly. We have tarnished, going through the tarnished over here. What do you get for the core pledge? What are the various miniatures, the tarnished, the bosses you're fighting against, the enemies you're fighting against? You're going through all of that over here. Those Godric Knights are a lot of fun to fight against. They're tactical. These enemies provide a challenge. The Beastman of Farum Azula is a challenge to go through. He will present something that you have to face off against. And again, imagine all these bases as you go through it as being actually having something bases. What are they called again? They're called grafted. No, not grafted. They're called texture. That's the word I'm looking for. Textured bases. I'm thinking of Grafted King over there right now. So you have the various bosses you're fighting against, the components, cards, all of that stuff. Some of it exciting to look at, some of it not so much, and that's going to be the core pledge. And then we have the all-in pledge. There are options along the way over here. You could get to the optional buy so that you don't have to get all or nothing over here. Because right now we have core, we have entry, we have core, and we have all-in. But you could get the entry plus, this expansion. You could get the core plus those two expansions. You can mix and match as you want. Although factor in savings as you go through that. $429, save $216 in MSRP, plus get the additional unlocks for $100. This includes everything in the Kickstarter at a $79 bundle discount for getting it all at once. Again, going to the question of getting it all separately or together, this includes absolutely everything is what they're saying over here. All the miniatures, all the boxes, tons of content for the Elden Ring. Not that you need all of it at all, but we'll come to that in the Should You Back It. And then going through the individual expansions over here, we have, we have the Stormvale Castle expansion with the various tarnished and miniatures you'll face off in there. Again, scrolling through this stuff fairly quickly. There's only so much I can really pause, although the Grafted sign is one worth pausing on. As is Godric the Grafted. I mean, look at that. This miniature, I've held this miniature. It's a guy with a dragon head for an arm. How much cooler can you get? So that's pretty intense over there. But past that over here, we're going to continue down over here, and we have the Flying Dragon Akil expansion over here. With the Flying Dragon, this is going to be one of the Kickstarter exclusive expansions. Take that into account. Some of the content here is Kickstarter exclusive, including the Erd Tree Avatar, and that's what we mostly have as far as there before we get to the daily unlocks. Now this is the daily unlocks, which unlocks an entire expansion worth of new content at a $100 valuation. I'm skeptical of the valuation, but the valuation is kind of semantics because it depends on how you value things. Because I'll tell you this much, looking on the secondhand market after the fact, trying to get these exclusives will cost you more than $100 to get your hands in it. And so I think that if you're valuing it based on the secondhand market, it's more than $100. If you're valuing it based on MSRP, I think $100 is a stretch. Either way, you'll have to determine the value to yourself as you get this, but it will hold this value in the secondhand market. But over here, we have skeletons, we have the Mad Pumpkinhead, we have the Warrior Tarnish, we have 18 tiles, 10 hours of quest, the Wretch, the Demi-Human Queen, and we have 2 or 3 days left of content left. At the moment of filming this, we're on the 3 days left to the end of the campaign. You'll be seeing this 2 days left to the end of the campaign, which means you may even see 1 or 2 more unlocks already, but we'll have more content. But unless there's a drastic surprise at the end of it, I'm just skeptical that this can really be $100 worth of content, but we'll see. And we're currently in the pathway right now. Make your choice to which way you want to go. We'll figure all of that out shortly. And then we have the exploration unlocks. You know, get a glimpse of what's waiting overhead, catch a glimpse. This is the stuff we already have. This is the stuff we have. And then we have the add-ons. Okay, going through the add-ons we just went through, showing you every individual thing so you can take a look over there. And that's what we have as far as Elden Ring. Some more gameplay, the open module exploration, you know, the guidance of Grace deck. We have some just general stuff over here showing you some more gameplay aspects of the combat and the various stances facing off against the enemies. Again, it's an enjoyable, rewarding combat puzzle that I've really enjoyed so far. And then we have the battle stance system, which looks kind of silly, but functionally works as far as what the system's doing, as far as the choices it gives you. It works. And we have the diceless combat, which is enjoyable. I felt the strategic aspect of going through this gameplay. That's what I'd say. I felt the strategic aspect. Highly recommend checking out a variety of channels over here. Again, you can check it out over here. We have Crackle, a bunch of stuff. They have their own playthroughs. Honestly, skip my playthrough. Jump straight to their playthrough. They had significantly better filming setup over there as far as filming setup, editing, and all of that. And so overall, would recommend checking out Steamforged Games playthroughs if you're on the fence about what to watch over there. And from there, that's going to bring us to the shipping information, where we're going to have the various, duties and taxes, and the various, £39 for the United Kingdom over there. USA over here is going to run you, USA mainland is going to run you £49. Take those numbers into account when you're looking at the actual discount. Saving $200 on the official value is great, but what if you're paying a quarter of that into the shipping, and then generally nothing actually costs MSRP anyway, so factor all of that in as we go through it. And with that, let's talk about the should you back it or should you not. This is Elden Ring, the board game. There's always two conversations here, and I'll try to steer you properly in both directions. The first conversation is, will this hold its value? And the second conversation is, should you get it? Those are two different conversations, and you have to make a decision, but I'll try to walk you through as much as possible. As far as the should you back it, will it hold its value? Yes, it will. At the end of the day, Steamforged Games have always done a tremendous job of putting out products at a price point and having enough stuff in there that people want that their things hold their value. Bardsung, which has gotten medium reviews from most people who played it, like medium to good reviews, not bad, not great, not amazing, just good. It's a good game. And Bardsung overall, the £206 pledge all in was going for nearly twice that when it first landed, and even now over here, if you're looking at completed listings, the all in still goes for $300 to $400 overall, making it one that easily has held its value. That's going to be true for the core pledge, it's going to be true for the all-in. Bardsung, a game that even with reviews that were not great, holding its value totally. Same concept with Dark Souls. Dark Souls, if you look back at the original Dark Souls board game, running for £75 for the entry pledge, or $80 for the non-early bird or whatnot, those are still selling for $174. And again, it's going to be very based on expansions, the all-ins will change, but you're still looking for a decent chunk of change that is being spent on these games. Steamforged Games, those are just two examples. But in general, when I backed Bardsung, I said, hey, you know what? The gameplay was intriguing. I'm not yet sold in it, but I'm not worried because it'll hold its value, and it absolutely did hold its value. So the first question is, will it hold its value? Yes. Caveat that my information here is more US-centric in general. You'll have to extrapolate to your own region where you are and whether you can sell things as easily, shipping costs, all of that. But as far as a US-based backer, it's going to hold its value. Steamforged Games in general have, and that will absolutely be true of Elden Ring, where you have that Kickstarter exclusive Alexander mini, you have a whole bunch of Kickstarter exclusive unlock expansions, you have some expansions that are specifically Kickstarter exclusive. There's enough exclusive content here that yes, it'll hold its value. If you're on the fence as to what to get over here, if you're on the fence as to whether you should spend that much money on a game that you may not even like, I wouldn't worry about that as long as you are the kind of person who doesn't mind going through the little bit of legwork to actually sell the pledges you have. All of that has two caveats. The first caveat is you have to be the kind of person who's actually going to sell it if it's not for you. If you're not, then you're still spending a lot of money here. And the second is that may be completely irrelevant if at the end of the day you're looking at the conversation and saying, I don't care if it holds its value, I want to know if it's worth it to me. And that's a different conversation entirely. Whether or not Elden Ring is a game that will work for you, I can't say. I believe Elden Ring is going to be one of Steamforged Games' better received games. I've played their games. I've played a bunch of their games. I've gotten a good sense. Even Bardsung, where Bardsung was a game that I was intrigued by, but I was not sold on Bardsung. Versus Elden Ring is a game that, based on what I've seen so far, I'm sold on it. I just need to see if it holds up. Those are two different statements. Bardsung, I need to see where it went. Elden Ring, I'm already interested. I just need to see if it continues to hold up like that. Elden Ring is a good game. I'm not worried about that. I believe that will hold up over time. How good of a game versus the potentially $450 price tag is an entirely different conversation. If you're on the fence as to other games you can get that will give you just as much tactile gameplay at different price points, there's a whole bunch of things I can point you to. I can point you to Too Many Bones from Chip Theory Games that will give you at a $200. If you spend $200 there, the amount of gameplay content you'll get on a incredibly well-vetted game is off the charts. It's a ton. It's an absolute ton. It's a well-loved game. game. If you're looking for, you know, another game that gives you the exploration of Elden Ring, Skyrim, the board game, will give you that exploration. Skyrim from a different entertainment gives you a solid degree of exploration, although not with the same degree of rewarding combat. There are different systems out there. Gloomhaven, we haven't talked about Gloomhaven, we haven't talked about Oathsworn. There are so many games out there that are significantly more well vetted as far as being out in the public sphere and having a degree of eyes on them and being able to tell you that they're good games while being expensive. Elden Ring is in the unique position right now where it's up to, not that unique, we see Kickstarters at this all the time, but at $450 for the all-in, that's asking you a lot of money to believe that it's a good game, and it's asking you to trust the handful of people who have played it as to whether or not it's a game for you, and that is an entirely different conversation. And so I would say it depends. If you're the type of person who's willing to sell it, if it's not for you, back with confidence, you'll be able to sell it, don't worry about that. If you're the kind of person who isn't, or if you're the kind of person who just wants to know if it's going to be worth it for you, I think that's a harder conversation. This is expensive. It's good, but it's expensive. If you're on the fence and you're uncertain, perhaps get the core pledge or even the entry pledge. They have plans to have future Kickstarters here for this game, and if you dive into the entry pledge and you're like, wow, I really enjoyed this and I'm willing to shell out more for it, you'll have that opportunity down the road. And so I would say it depends very heavily which camp you're in over there. If you're the kind of person who watched this video to tell me all the reasons you don't want to back Elden Ring, great, you're already safe. You're good. You don't need to back this game. I'm not trying to push you back the game in the slightest. Don't get the game if you're not interested. If you're interested and on the fence, that's where it depends. I believe there's a good game here, and if you're not sure about how much you want to spend and you're not going to sell it, get the core, but get the entry pledge only, or the core pledge at most, or if you really, really want to push it, the core pledge plus the 2 Kickstarter exclusive expansions. That's where you can go ahead and get a ton of content, more than you'll ever really need. You'll be able to tell yourself that you'll be able to go ahead and get the all-in stuff down the road, for sure, but you won't necessarily need to. And so yeah, that's Elden Ring. Elden Ring, the board game. It will hold its value, but it is expensive, and so whether or not it's for you, that's a decision you'll have to make. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.